Deep Water is an excerpt from the book Of Men and Mountains, written by William O. Douglas. It is an autobiographical description of how the author develops the fear of water, that is, hydrophobia, and how thereafter he finally overcomes it. He narrates about the aversion to water, how it started. When he was 3 or 4 years old, his father took him to a beach in California. There, he was struck by the powerful waves and was knocked down, and he was buried under the water. He puts his experience in these words: "My breath was gone. I was frightened. Father laughed, but there was terror in my heart at the overpowering force of the waves." This is where he develops the aversion to water. Aversion means dislike. To overcome this aversion, he wanted to learn swimming. And when he was around 10 or 11 years old, he decided to learn to swim. So he joined the YMCA pool at Yakima. The aversion to water also might have been there because his mother used to continually warn him against the Yakima River and narrated him the cases of each drowning in the river. So he thought of starting at YMCA pool, which was safe as it was only 2 or 3 feet deep at the shallow end, and while it was 9 feet deep at the other. So he started with the water wings. What are water wings? Water wings are inflated armband designed to help a wearer to learn to float and to learn to swim. When he started to learn to swim, unpleasant memories which he had when he was 3 to 4 years and was buried underwater were revived. But he mustered the confidence and started with his water wings, watching and copying the other children. When he started becoming comfortable in the water, this misadventure happened. And what was this misadventure? This is an important question from the board. The misadventure is the incident where, when he was all alone, he was picked up and thrown into the swimming pool of YMCA by a bruiser. Bruiser means a bully, a muscular bully. The author did not know how to swim, and he was about to drown. He was overpowered by the fear. Initially, he was shocked and frightful, but then he used his presence of mind and planned to make a big jump the moment his feet touched the surface of the pool and spring like a cock and lie flat on the surface of the water and paddle to the edge of the pool. Puts it that those 9 feet were more like 90. He thought his lungs would burst, and whatever he had planned, that he would bob to the surface like a cock. Instead, it was a slow process coming up. He grew panicky, wanted to grab, clutch, but what was there in his hands were water. He felt suffocated, choked, tried to yell, but no. He flailed at the water. Flail means strike vigorously to come on the surface of the water, to come out of the water. And in the process, he swallowed some water and got choked. Felt paralyzed and rigid, as if a great force was pulling him down. He screamed, but only the water could hear and nobody else. Then he was again going down, drowning. Again, he remembered that strategy of coming up like a cock, bobbing up like a cock. But now sheer, stark terror seized him. Stark here means bleak. A terror that knows no understanding, a terror that knows no control, and a terror that no one can understand. That's how he puts it to express his desperate. But no sound came because he was inside the water. Hopeless situation. He says that his screams were frozen in his throat. Only he could hear was only the thing that he could hear was his heart pounding and the head beating. And again he tried to jump up. I wanted to cry out for help, wanted to call his mother, but nothing happened. And then suddenly he was coming out of the water, the awful yellow water. Why does he use the word yellow again and again? When he's first drowning, he uses that dirty yellow tinge. Yellow obviously suggests the gloominess, melancholic situation, the hopeless situation in which he was stuck. Then the third time he went down, he sucked for air and got water. He says all effort ceased. Ceased means stopped. He felt relaxed. Blackness swept over his brain. Blackness means he doesn't remember what happened. There was no panic. It was quiet and peaceful. Then he felt some tender arms like his mother's around him. He went into the state of oblivion. Oblivion means unaware or unconscious of what is happening around, forgotten. And he says the curtain of life fell. We get to know that he is saved by somebody. As he puts it, that the next thing he remembered was lying on the stomach beside and vomiting. And the bully who had threw him. Duck means forcefully putting somebody down in the water, was justifying that he was only fooling. The others were snubbing him that the kid nearly died. Several hours later, he walked home. He was terrified. He felt weak and shaken by the whole incident. He couldn't eat that night. The haunting fear was all over him. Even the slightest exertion means exhaustion, being tired, upset him. Feeling wobbly means shaky, and sick to stomach. Sick to the stomach means to feel as if one is going to vomit. It is after this incident, dear students, that he develops hydrophobia. That is, he was phobic to the water. A few years later, when he came to know the waters of the cascade, he wanted to enjoy there. But whenever he wanted to go there, he waded in the water. Waded means walked in the water, or while in the warm lake of cold rocks, he says the terror always seized him, had a control over him. He couldn't enjoy the thrill of water, the adventure related to water. The terror would seize him, take possession of him, and he would be paralyzed. He felt numb and paralyzed. This handicap means disability, continued as the years went by. Whenever he went for fishing for salmon fish or trout fish, the fear would haunt him. It followed him, it ruined his fishing trips and deprived him of all the joys of canoeing, boating, or swimming. So ultimately, he decided that he needs to overcome this fear if he wants to enjoy the water sports, the thrill of water. So he decided to hire an instructor, and he went to the pool, practiced 5 days a week. an hour each day. So, how did the instructor help him? By making him practice 5 days a week, an hour each. By making him practice 5 days a week, an hour each day, to make the narrator feel relaxed in the water. He put a belt around the narrator. A rope was attached to the belt, which went through a pulley and narrator's belt. Whenever the instructor eased the grip over the rope, he would feel seized by the terror. He swam back and forth with the help of that rope being tied to his belt. He puts it that on each trip across the pool, a bit of panic seized him, controlled him. But each time the instructor relaxed his hold on the rope, he said some terror would return and froze his legs. It took him 3 months, slowly and steadily overcome the fear. The fear started slacking. Slacking means decreasing in intensity. And then he taught him how to put his face under water and exhale and raise his nose and inhale. And he repeated this hundreds and hundreds of times. And bit by bit, this instructor the part of the panic that seized him. And then he held him at the side of the pool and had him kick his legs. At first, his legs refused to work, but gradually he relaxed. The legs started getting relaxed in water. Finally, he could command his legs. The narrator says that piece by piece, the instructor built a swimmer. This is very important from the board's perspective. This so each activity exercise was perfected and then integrated into the whole. And ultimately, the instructor one day told him that he was ready to swim on his own. But he says that the narrator says that when the instructor his job was finished, he says that his own work was not yet finished. I still wondered, he says, that if I would be terror stricken. He had these doubts in him. He could swim alone in the pool. Tiny vestiges of the old terror would return. Tiny vestiges means in small parts the terror would come back. But he would scare the terror by frowning at the terror and saying, trying to scare me, ah? Well, here's to you. Look, and off I would go for another length of the pool. The narrator was still not satisfied, so he went to Lake Wentworth in New Hampshire, a dock at the Triggs Island, and swam 2 miles across the lake to Stamp Island. He used various strokes like breaststroke, crawling, side. When he was in the middle of the lake, once the terror returned, but of course the narrator challenged the terror, and of course it fled. So ultimately he conquered, he won over the fear of water, that is water phobia. He puts it very beautifully, saying that in death there is peace. But he says that it is the fear of death that terrorizes us. And he quotes Roosevelt by saying that all we have to fear is fear itself. That means that if we are scared, we are fearful, of course, the fear would drive us crazy. So, if you want to win over the fear, you have to challenge the fear. Fear the fear itself. He ends by saying that he had experienced both the sensation of dying and the terror that fear can produce in somebody. So it was the will in him which was stronger and wanted him to live, and that is how the willpower won, and ultimately he could win over the fear of water.